ranking this Halloween franchise has not been an easy task, and that's mostly due to the fact that I find so many of these films enjoyable. Again, I'm a Halloween guy. That's exactly what you're going to get from me every single time. I'm going to try to find the silver linings where I can, and I absolutely did not want to go back to back on Rob Zombie offerings, but back to back we shall go with 2007's Halloween remake. Coming in at number 10 on the Aging Gracefully Halloween Countdown. Let's find out why. Yeah, I'm not really sure why I was so surprised about some of the stuff that we got in this movie, because I've seen Rob Zombie movies in the past and I know Rob Zombie's style, but I feel like there should have been some sort of a warning that came along with this film regarding Michael Myers' home life, because I was unreasonably excited about getting a reboot of this story and these characters that I've loved for so very long. You know, I dragged my girlfriend in the movie along with my buddy and his girlfriend, so I had a lot invested in this outing. 5 minutes in, I'm squirming in my seat, right? I look to them because, you know, I want to make sure the people I came with aren't just going to ditch me because I dragged them to something like that. And they had that stink face about them that you would get when you smell rotten food or something. And, you know, what the fuck was happening? Backtracking ever so slightly, let's talk about how we get there. And rock music welcomes us to the start of this film into a house with a young man in a clown mask hanging out in a bathroom petting a rat, or more specifically, killing a rat with some sort of a scalpel or a knife. Now, guess who that was? Now, perfect. You know, we've made Michael a cliche of a stereotypical killer that got his start torturing small things, while his bitchy older sister just screams at him for being in the bathroom too long, only for him to yell annoyingly back at her in this just obnoxious screaming match. And that wasn't even the worst thing we got in that morning. If you thought that was bad, just wait until we get to that breakfast table. Now, boy, oh boy, do I love me some William Forsythe. I mean, I really do. Anything he's in, I try to go see it because I think he's a really talented actor. And I think he was underrated in Raising Arizona. I mean, I loved him in everything I've seen him in. And naturally, Sherry Moon Zombie is playing Michael's mother in this movie. A little bit of a nepo hire, but I thought she was pretty good in the role. But what we get when we sit down to this breakfast table is some of the foulest back and forth that I've ever heard between a couple. I'm assuming they're a couple. Judith eventually gets involved in the conversation, and then Michael sits down with his clown mask. Vile doesn't even cover some of the insults and some of the comments that were being thrown back and forth, the baby screaming in the background. Now, naturally, living in a house like that would probably drive me to murder too, but what a terrible, terrible origin story for an absolute legend in the field. Whereas John Carpenter masterfully painted a picture of a young man that just snapped one Halloween night. And this is a story that tells us of this kid who has a bad home life. He's got a stripper for a mother. Kids at school bully him. They torment him about said stripping. And a drive, he's got this urge to just harm living things. And in fact, we see that Judith isn't even the first human kill for this Michael Myers. Instead, it's a bully in the woods. And this bully deserves some comeuppance, but this bully gets beaten to death by a branch by Michael Myers. And again, I have no issues with making something your own, but this is a major departure for this character. We get to Halloween night, and Mom is working the pole again. Mikey decides he's first going to kill William Forsythe's character, then he kills Judith's boyfriend, and then he kills Judith after he finds that iconic white mask laying on the floor of the bedroom where Judith and her boyfriend just banged. Now, the boyfriend brought it over to scare Judith. Judith thought it was stupid, so he took it off, and an icon is born. Awkward for a moment because he touches his sister in sort of a strange way before he stabs her, and then he goes to his baby sister's crib, you know, and you think the worst because this kid has just done some pretty gnarly things, but instead of hurting the little baby, he kisses her, tells her happy Halloween, and then takes her out front to sit on the porch to wait for the mother and the cops to show up. For me, the biggest shoes to fill in this film were that of Dr. Sam Loomis. Donald Pleasance was so good in that role. He gave us that Van Helsing-like character to really combat and chase after Michael Myers. And here in this version, we get Malcolm McDowell. Now, he takes a more active role after the murders, and Michael is sent to Smith's Grove Sanitarium. But we meet him earlier in the principal's office because he's found, or more specifically, the principal's found dead animals, found photographs of dead animals. And this is something Dr. Loomis specializes in regarding this sort of behavior. Now, they have a lot of fun between the two. I think the relationship building between this Dr. Loomis and that Michael Myers at such a young age, it was kind of fun. They had good conversation, and it seemed like they were forming some sort of rapport. We get to a point, though, where Michael attacks and kills a nurse, and his mother sees everything. She sees that rage in his eyes, and it breaks her heart. It absolutely crushes her. She goes home, she puts on old home movies, and she takes her own life with her baby screaming in the crib behind her. This loss completely shuts Michael down. He turns into just a mute. He doesn't talk to Dr. Loomis. He doesn't respond to treatment. He is just there. He is literally the shape of a human being. Dr. Loomis doesn't feel like he can do anything more with Michael, so he says his own farewells. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is when the real shit starts to go down, because we get ourselves a sped-up version of the original movie. Michael ends up breaking out during a transfer, which, why they're transferring him right around Halloween, I'll never understand. The guy's locked up because of Halloween killings. Transfer his ass in July. He winds up killing Danny Trejo, which I thought was terrible because he was always so good to Mikey in there. But then he heads off to Haddonfield. And can I just say, when we're talking about the transit from Smith's Grove to Haddonfield, RIP to Joe Grizzly. I mean, can we please get Joe Grizzly some sort of a spin-off movie, an origin story for Joe Grizzly? I mean, what a fun 5 minutes we had with him on screen. I mean, that dude was just feeling himself, living his best life, and then that crusty, cranky Halloween killer just moseys on into his stall and turns everything upside down. Now, those two went to war over that dingy old jumpsuit that Michael wanted so badly, and I don't believe any stunt actors were actually used in that scene. They really beat the shit out of each other in that bathroom. Ken Foree's fantastic. Anything he's in, it's always a good time. This was no different. So when we meet the victims, or the proposed victims of this film, it's clear to us right away that Scout Taylor Compton is not trying to give us a cheap knockoff performance, trying to be Jamie Lee Curtis. She's trying to do her own thing. She's trying to be her own Laurie Strode, and it really works. I think she nails it here. She's bubbly, and she's fun, and she's got Dee Wallace to call mama. I mean, who wouldn't be happy with that sort of an arrangement? But I really dug her, and I dug the way she handled this character. She made this movie feel different from the original, and not that the skull fucking talk over pancakes didn't already do that emphatically enough, but we needed her here for this, and I think she nailed it. And can I tell you just how unbelievably excited I was when I heard that Danielle Harris was coming back to Halloween? I mean, we're getting her back. You're going to hear me say that name a lot with love and respect all throughout this countdown. But in this side of the story, over here on this remake, she's playing the role of Annie Brackett. Her father is the sheriff. And guess what? We've got another great horror legend playing that part in Brad Dourif, a.k.a. Chucky, playing Sheriff Brackett. And this, we talked about it when we talked about Halloween 2. The role was so expanded, I feel like, because Sheriff Brackett is such a key figure in this movie and in the next movie. And with Brad Dourif in that role, I feel like he kind of had to do that. So having him here is great. It's just wonderful stuff. But having our Jamie Lloyd back after the disrespect showed to her in part 6, just really, really great to see. So Tyler Mane as Michael Myers is something you just have to see to believe. I mean, he's a large guy, and you don't realize how big he actually is until he starts to encounter some of these obstacles on his way home to Haddonfield. And once he does get to his childhood home, which is strangely unoccupied, he decides to rip up some floorboards, and voila, we have a very aged, sort of zombified version of that white mask that we know and love that he wore so many Halloweens ago. I love the look of this mask. They kill this one here. Mission is the same, though. I mean, Michael's after his little sister, and we don't know immediately why. I mean, does he want to reunite with her? Does he want to kill her? Laurie was adopted by the Strodes, and that's really the only thing she knows. She doesn't know any more past that. She doesn't know where she really came from. Annie and Linda are really good friends to her in this movie. The chemistry between the three is really good, I thought. And even Tommy and Lindsay are fun, but ultimately we know we're destined to end up with Laurie in a showdown with Michael, and with Dr. Loomis to brandish a big ol' handgun to try to tame his one-time ward. Let's talk about what this remake killed, shall we? And one thing this movie did not lack was killing. And this version of Michael with Tyler Mane donning the mask is fill your pants terrifying. And yeah, I get it. I know what you're thinking. When isn't Michael scary? All apologies to Resurrection. This version, though, he's tall, he's powerful, imposing, relentless, just brutal. And it feels like he has some sort of a childlike wonder when it comes to killing things. You know, you see it when Paul, I think, is hanging in the bracket house and wearing a pumpkin, wearing a jack-o'-lantern, and Michael just pushes him as he's swinging and watches it. And for me, that is a scary, scary dude. And now there's some iterations of Michael Myers that I look at and I think maybe I could get some shots in on this guy. Like in Halloween 4 when that guy went up on the stairs on Brady, maybe I could have got some shots in. This one, though, if I had him coming towards me, I would make lemonade in my pants. Period. No questions asked. Rob Zombie absolutely aced this assignment. Yeah, I love the characters in peril too. I mean, Scout Compton did her job here well and made you believe that somebody else could be Laurie Strode. I mean, she kind of got away from us a little bit in 2, but we're talking about this movie. And in this movie, I thought she just nailed it. Danielle Harris was great. Danielle Harris is always great. And she was bouncy and she was way more naked than I ever thought we'd see. But I adore the way that Rob sort of spotlighted her in these 2 films. And who doesn't love Dee Wallace? I mean, God bless that beautiful woman. Malcolm McDowell was pretty good here too as Loomis, even if that did go to shit 2 years later. But for this film, I thought the cast, especially when we got to that Halloween night, I thought they were absolutely tremendous. And the nods to the original are done very well. And, you know, that's not always something that's easy to do without messing them up or cheaply ripping them off. I thought Michael following the girls home was well done. The Ghost Bob kill really worked. The first half of the movie, if we're being honest, it felt like a mess. And it's not until they got to the stuff that we knew and we were familiar with that we could really settle in and enjoy this level of havoc. Because Rob Zombie's got some cool ideas about filmmaking. And we got some of that injected with that original storyline that we really love. So I thought the last 45 minutes to an hour of this movie really hit it out of the park. Now, as far as what killed this movie, I mean, I think that's pretty easy to pinpoint. I don't understand why everything has to be born from a trailer park. I swear to Christ, I loved the idea of getting to see more of Michael as a child and maybe digging into what happened to make him do what he did that Halloween night. But when we got 10 minutes into that, I just wanted out of it. It felt like South Park doing a parody of a Rob Zombie movie with how over the top and crazy the whole thing got. I mean, it's just unappealing. I mean, I could see this style, and to this, I'll always feel this way. I could really see this style working for one hell of a gnarly Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, just not for Halloween. There's also a director's cut of this film that has a rape in Smith's Grove Sanitarium, and it actually takes place inside of Michael's room with 2 of those squirrely-ass guards. And I just don't understand why we needed that, you know? Why film it? Why release it? What was the point? And that is the perfect example of grit and grime just going too far. That is the perfect example of just doing things for the sake of doing them. It added nothing to the story. It added nothing to the mystique of Michael. It just went way, way too far. And I'm not really a huge fan of the ending, you know, but that's okay. I mean, when you realize that Rob Zombie had no intention of making a sequel, the ending makes a lot more sense. Score-wise, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. You know, if they cut 30 minutes from the front of this movie, I think we have an all-timer or close to it. But sadly, we had to get that crippled potty mouth. We had to get him some one-liners in there. We had to make Michael out to be an animal-maiming weirdo. You know, it's truthfully as high on this list as this film's ever going to get. And that's okay because we've got 9 bangers coming up. And we're going to get to number 9 next. This is Agent Gracefully. I'm Matthew Essex. Let me know what you thought of this movie. It's very divisive. I've heard a lot of different opinions about this one. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear it. I love that sort of conversation. Movies are my hobby. Horror movies are my favorite hobby. Join the channel. Subscribe to us. Comment on this video. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you on the next one and on the other side.